The hometown advantage is commonplace in MMA, with a raucous crowd guiding several fighters to career-defining wins and championship belts. It's easy to get caught in hometown fervor, with a number of judges' decisions being scored wrongly due to fears of upsetting the local support. Today, we look at some of the biggest examples. Welcome to the INC, and these are 5 of the worst hometown decisions in MMA. Michael Bisping has been no stranger to hometown decisions, and for many, his most egregious came against Matt Hamill at UFC 75. The fight was the culmination of a feud stemming from the 3rd season of The Ultimate Fighter, with many believing Bisping won the show due to Hamill suffering an injury partway through the season. Hamill showed an improved stand-up game to rock Bisping on multiple occasions, before securing a series of takedowns at the end of the first round, leaving the Brit visibly frustrated as he returned to his corner.
No, he's got to work his fucking standing! He's working his butts. What is he?
While the second and third rounds were even in the stand-up, Hamill's superior wrestling continued to give him the edge, with most fans at the O2 Arena resigning themselves to the first loss of Bisping's career.
Michael the Count Bisping!
The decision is considered one of the worst in MMA history, and added with Bisping's post-fight trash talk, played a role in turning the British fighter into one of the sport's biggest villains. Interestingly, it was American judges Cecil Peoples and Jeff Mullen who scored the fight for Bisping, with the sole British judge Chris Watts going in the opposite direction. Bisping scored further hometown decisions over Anderson Silva and Dan Henderson, and ended his career in 2018 having never lost a match in the UK. The Americans, however, would get their revenge 7 years later. At Fight Night Albuquerque, hometown favorite Diego Sanchez took on Ultimate Fighter winner Ross Pearson. Pearson entered the match in good form after wins over George Soteropoulos and Ryan Couture, while Sanchez was looking to avoid the first 3-fight skid of his career. Pearson dominated the fight from the start, landing more strikes than Sanchez in every round and limiting the veteran to just 24% strike accuracy. Pearson also scored the fight's only takedown and briefly dropped Diego in the middle of the second round. The fight was widely considered to be the best performance of Pearson's career. Unfortunately, it came to naught.
Wow, I am still in shock and in disbelief on that decision. Ross Pearson won that fight in a 30-27 for Diego Sanchez. Those judges should be ashamed.
UFC President Dana White was a vocal critic of the decision, choosing to pay Pearson his $30,000 win bonus and stating future booking decisions would be made as if Pearson won the fight. Despite losing the fight, Pearson would have the last laugh, as his performance earned him a match with former lightweight title challenger Gray Maynard. Pearson scored a second-round knockout in the biggest win of his MMA career. Alex Hernandez entered 2019 as one of the lightweight division's biggest prospects. After bursting on the scene with a short-notice win over Beneil Dariush, Hernandez was given a hometown match with Francisco Trinaldo at Fight Night San Antonio, and was seen as a perfect bounce back after his loss to Donald Cerrone earlier that year. Many were keen to see how Hernandez handled the first real setback of his career. The answer was quickly evident. A nervous Hernandez threw almost nothing in the majority of the fight, as Trinaldo dictated the pace and landed the more meaningful shots throughout the 3 rounds. Despite 26 landed strikes and 15 minutes of backpedaling, Hernandez was given a 30-27 decision, leaving the hometown fans jubilant and everyone else scratching their heads. Not that Hernandez showed any signs of that in his post-fight interviews.
This was a stepping stone. I knew this was going to be a stepping stone, but I proved something to myself that I can be composed, I can be patient, and I can continue to evolve. And I adapt like no one else in this game.
Trinaldo, meanwhile, was less ecstatic about the decision, asking the UFC to pay a win bonus and admitting he considered asking to be released in the minutes after the loss. Trinaldo would bounce back with his own decision win over Bobby Green at Sao Paulo. Hernandez, meanwhile, hasn't fought since. While not technically a hometown decision, Rico Rodriguez's match with Antonio Nogueira had enough shenanigans to qualify for this list. In 2003, the UFC sent some of its top stars to compete in Pride Fighting Championships, and after Chuck Liddell's win over Alistair Overeem, former UFC champ Rodriguez faced Nogueira at Pride Total Elimination. Most pundits expected Nogueira to dominate the fight, only for Rico to score a series of takedowns and neutralize all of Nogueira's submission attempts. Although Nogueira got the upper hand in the stand-up, he had no answer for Rico's wrestling, with nearly 80% of the fight taking place with Nogueira on the bottom. A second straight loss would have damaged Pride's standing in their feud against the UFC, and arguably played a key role in the judges' scoring of the fight.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
Head Pride judge Matt Hume attempted to defend the decision, stating Nogueira was rewarded for his large number of submission attempts and forward progression, but it's safe to say his excuses didn't go down well with Rodriguez's corner.
Bullshit, man, you know it. You fucking know it. The fans know it. The fucking commentators know it. Everyone knows it. They just didn't want to lose 2 in a row. Chuck Liddell fucking knocked your boy out, and I fucking dominated your champ like a king. And you're lucky I didn't have fucking elbows, because he'd be fucking dead.
Rodriguez would never reach the same level of success, fighting once more for the UFC before starting a journeyman career on the regional circuit where he holds a 54-26 record. Russia has never been one to play it fair on the sporting stage, something MMA fans found out when Fedor Emelianenko faced Fabio Maldonado at EFN 50. The show was a celebration of all things Fedor. The Russian legend was making his comeback after a 3-year retirement, with hopes a dominant performance would finally secure him a contract with the UFC. Maldonado, meanwhile, was a journeyman fighter who'd lost 3 of his past 4 fights, but early in the first round, the Brazilian nearly silenced the hometown faithful.
Oh! Whoa! Whoa! Look at this! What's happening? Fedor is up! Stop the fight!
Despite an onslaught of punches and clearly being out on his feet, Fedor was given every opportunity to stay in the fight, with his condition so bad he required smelling salts to continue past the first round. Although Fedor would recover and arguably steal the final 2 rounds, he looked far from convincing in the process, with most experts believing the best the Russian could hope for was a draw. The fight immediately came under fire for its conflict of interest. The fight and its undercard had been sanctioned by the Russian MMA Union, overseen by a Mr. Fedor Emelianenko. Russian president and friend of Fedor, Vladimir Putin, attended the show as a special guest. Oh, and the guy who assigned the referee and the judges that night? Maldonado's team immediately looked to get the result overturned, and after the Russian MMA Union unsurprisingly upheld the result, the World MMA Association sided in his favor and scored the fight as a draw. And now, time for a few honorable mentions. Ronda Marcos holds 6 decision wins in her MMA career, all but 1 coming in her home nation of Canada. If you're an aging Brazilian legend, make sure you get yourself on a local UFC fight night. The judges were gonna give Stephen Thompson the nod over Darren Till, until they saw what would have happened to their cars.
I told you not to bring somebody from Liverpool on this show.
Why? Oh my God.
This is the INC. Support the channel on Patreon.